Everyone has played the game in their head. What would you do with $100 million jackpot? Quit your job, buy a house, never work again? But you know what's funny? The actual winning move was never buying that ticket. It's owning the machine that sells it. By the end of this video, you will know why science says most lottery winners are doing better than the stereotype claim, why the company running your national lottery is quietly one of the most profitable businesses in Europe, and what it would actually take for you to be the one on the other side of the counter. Let's get into it. Let's actually sit in for a second. Not the fantasy version, the real one. It's a Tuesday night. You're refreshing the numbers on your phone. Six digits come up, and they match. All of them. Your hands are shaking so hard, you check three more times. You don't call anyone yet because you don't actually know what to do next. And that's the first thing nobody tells you. Winning isn't the end of the story, it's the start of a very strange few months. Here's what actually happens. You say nothing to almost no one for at least a few days. You sign the back of the ticket, but not before photographing it and locking it in a safe or safety deposit box, because a lottery ticket is effectively a bearer instrument. Whoever holds it and signs it first owns it. Most states give you a window of anywhere from 90 days up to a full year to actually claim, and that window is deliberate. It exists so you have time not to panic decide anything. In that window, the standard advice from every wealth manager who's handled a jackpot is identical. Hire a lawyer before you hire anyone else, then an accountant, then a fee-only financial advisor. In many places, your lawyer will draft a trust, sometimes a blind trust, days before you claim. So the trust, not your personal name, is the legal winner on record. It's not paranoia, it's the only real defense against the flood of relatives, old classmates, and total strangers who will find you within days in any state that requires a winner's name to be made public. If you live in Europe, you are in a better situation because you can claim without sharing your name, but even if you win in Europe, your lawyer will probably advise you to claim under a trust. Then comes the one decision you cannot undo. If you won in the United States, take the jackpot as an annuity, the full advertised number, paid out over 29 years in 30 rising installments, or take the lump sum, which is the actual cash sitting in the prize pool today, typically only around 55 to 60% of the number on the billboard. Say the jackpot is $500 million. The lump sum is closer to 280 to 300 million before a single dollar of tax comes off. If you won in a European game, you are good again, because in Europe, lump sum is the only option and you get the full amount. But taxes hit immediately. A mandatory 24% federal withholding the moment you claim, then, depending on your total income, up to 37% federal tax altogether, plus state tax on top almost everywhere. Run the full math on the $500 million jackpot, lump sum, no state lottery tax, and you land somewhere around $170 to $180 million actually hitting your account. Still an absurd, life-altering amount of money, just a fraction of the number that made the news. For my European friends, good news again. In most countries, you don't pay any tax on your lottery winnings. If you won 120 million on the Euro jackpot, that is the amount you will see in your account. So, that's day one in a nutshell. A phone call to a lawyer, a locked away ticket, a trust being formed, and a spreadsheet showing you a number about a third the size of the one you were imagining 12 hours earlier. Most financial advisors, by the way, still recommend the lump sum over the annuity for winners disciplined enough to invest it. Historically, a diversified portfolio compounding 7-8% year outpaces the annuity's fixed schedule over 3 decades, but that only works if you don't blow through it first, which is exactly why the ruined winner stereotype took hold so easily. You've heard it 1,000 times. Lottery winners go broke, get divorced, lose their friends, end up worse off than before they won. It's such a common trope, it has a name: the lottery curse. The story traces back to a single tiny 1978 study. Psychologists interviewed 22 lottery winners and compared them to 22 ordinary people and 29 people who had been paralyzed in accidents. The finding that made headlines forever: winners weren't much happier than the control group, and they got less pleasure from small daily moments like breakfast or a chat with a friend. 22 people. That's the entire evidence base behind a myth that's shaped public opinion for almost 50 years. So, what does better data actually say? A 2024 analysis pulled from 617 lottery winners in Germany later narrowed to 342 who'd won more than roughly $2,770. It found winning raised people's satisfaction with both their income and their life overall, the opposite of the old myth. A landmark study out of Sweden went even further. 3,362 winners would each won over 100,000, tracked for 5 to 22 years afterward. It found no dramatic jump in day-to-day happiness, but a real, lasting boost in life satisfaction. That was still measurable more than a decade later. Researchers called it one of the most solid long-term findings in the field. Here's the honest nuance, because this isn't a fairy tale either. Happiness, your day to day mood, barely moves, but life satisfaction, the bigger picture, is my life good question, goes up and stays up. Money doesn't make you smile more at breakfast, it makes the whole shape of your life more secure. And the broken 5 years stereotype, it mostly survivorship bias in reverse. The disaster stories get covered, the millions of winners who quietly paid off mortgages and kept working part time don't make the news. So, new starting point. Winning the lottery is actually awesome, which raises a much more interesting question. What if instead of buying the ticket, you use the same instinct, the appetite for business with insane durable margins, and looked at who's actually printing the tickets? Because someone has to run these things. Someone prints the scratch cards, builds the terminals, sets the odds, negotiates with governments, and takes a cut of every single dollar spent, win or lose, every single day, forever. That's not gambling, that's a business. And it might be one of the best businesses in the world. In 2024, Americans spent $104 billion dollars on lottery tickets. That's not a typo. More than Americans spent on movie theaters, streaming services, and video games combined, several times over. It's roughly $321 for every single resident of a lottery running state. So, where does that money actually go? Every ticket dollar splits roughly four ways: prices back to the players, operating cost, a small retailer commission on the state's cut for public programs, and the state's cut for public programs. Nationally, prize payouts run somewhere around 60 to 65% of sales. Massachusetts, the most generous state, pays back around 74%. Compare that to a casino slot machine, which typically pays back around 90%. The lottery is mathematically one of the worst bets in legalized gambling and one of the best businesses to be running. After prices and costs, states nationally kept around 34.5 billion in net lottery revenue in 2024, up 68% since 2008. Retailers earn an average 6% commission just for having a terminal on the counter, plus bonuses for selling a winning ticket. Now, zoom out from individual US states to the company actually running some of the biggest lotteries in the world. Its name is Allwyn. In the full year 2025, Allwyn posted a total revenue of roughly 9 billion euros, a gross gaming revenue of 8.6 billion euros, net revenue of 4.1 billion, and adjusted EBITDA of 1.6 billion, a margin north of 36%. For context, the EBITDA margin beats most airlines, most retailers, and most restaurant chains combined. The UK's arm alone, running the actual national lottery, brought in £962 million in net revenue. This is a company most people have never heard of, sitting on margins software companies would envy, built entirely on ping pong balls and scratch cards. So, who's actually built this? A Czech billionaire named Karel Komarek. His investment group, KKCG, took full ownership of Sazka, the largest lottery company in the Czech Republic, back in 2011, eventually controlling 95% of the Czech betting market. From there, the group rebranded as Allwyn and started expanding across Europe, Austria, Greece, Cyprus, Italy. Then came the big prize, the UK's national lottery. For 28 years, one company, Camelot, had run it. Since the lottery's launch in 1994, in 2022, the license came up for its fourth ever competition, and it was a bloodbath. Four bidders, including Camelot itself, all fighting for a 10-year license to run one of the largest lotteries on earth. All win one, part of how they did it is the actual template for how you win one of these. They promised to cut ticket prices from £2 to £1, pledged to donate roughly £38 billion to good causes over the license term, nearly matching everything Camelot had raised in 28 years, and stacked their board with UK business royalty, including the man who helped invent Air Miles and Nectar Card, and the guy who helped win London the 2012 Olympics. Then, in a final power move, Allwyn simply bought Camelot outright in 2022, absorbing its former rival's UK's operations before its own license even starting in February 2024. And they haven't stopped. Just this year, Allwyn agreed to combine with OPAP, the Greek gambling giant, creating one of the largest listed lottery and gaming operations on the planet, and picking up a majority stake in PrizePicks to break into the US daily fantasy sport market. This is a company that started as a single Czech betting operator and is now assembling a global lottery employer, one license and one acquisition at a time. Let's talk about why this business is so good structurally. Unlike a casino, the lottery doesn't need to beat you on any single hand or spin. It sets the odds once, mathematically, and then just needs volume, millions of people buying a $2 or $5 ticket. Day after day, no skill, no variance to manage on the house side, just relentless repeat purchases. And crucially, two-thirds of lottery sales come from instant scratch of tickets, not big jackpot draws. The boring, unglamorous, high frequency product is where the real money is. And it's concentrated. Historical research found the top 10% of lottery spenders account for roughly two-thirds of total sales. This isn't really a business built on occasional $2 ticket when the jackpot gets big. And the products keep escalating. $20, $30, even $50 scratch tickets are now common. So, could you actually do this? Let's see. Step 1. Understand there is no start from scratch path. Every US state lottery and most national lotteries are government run monopolies. You can't just launch a competing lottery next door. It's illegal almost everywhere. Gambling isn't otherwise regulated for private operators. The entire point isn't creating a new lottery, it's winning the contract to run an existing one. Step 2. Target the actual business, operations, not tickets. Two private companies, Scientific Games and IGT, along with newer entrants like Allwyn, own technology arm dominate lottery operations worldwide. Printing tickets, running the draw systems, building terminals, managing retail networks. That's the real business to study, not the games. Step 3. Win the license through public procedures. Government lottery contracts are awarded through the formal RFPs, requests for proposals. These are public, competitive, and brutal. You need proven technology and security infrastructure, financial capacity to guarantee price payouts, a compliance and regulatory track record, and as Owen showed, a headline grabbing pledge on either price cuts or increased public funding for win over regulators and public opinion. Step 4, build relationships years in advance. Winning bids aren't written in vacuum. Owen spent years assembling a board of UK institutional insiders before ever submitting its UK bid. Step 5, diversify beyond the draw. Look at Alvin's actual strategy today. It's not just lotteries anymore. It's acquiring sports betting platforms, daily fantasy sports, and merging with other regional operators. Because modern lottery company is really a diversified gambling and entertainment holding company that happens to have a lottery license. The honest takeaway, you're not starting a lottery from your garage, but you can invest in this industry. All in International's publicly available financial filings are a great starting point, and companies like IGT trade publicly too. The lottery is one of the few businesses where the house almost never loses, and now you know exactly who the house actually is. So, next time you buy a ticket, and you probably will, because 45 states and dozens of countries have made sure it's nearly impossible not to, remember the actual jackpot was never the 500 million. It's the 1.6 billion in annual EBITDA sitting quietly behind the machine that sold it to you.